Look what you did, you little jerk!
What's going on, jerk faces? Welcome to another edition of the Remote Circle of Jerks podcast. As always, Andy and myself are here with another new guest. Has never been on the podcast before. Good close friend of mine, and I'm really looking forward. It took a pandemic to have him come on, but here he is, my friend Paul Lee. How's it going, man?
Hey, I'm pretty good. How are you guys?
Good. Paul, I'll be honest with me. You just can't stand to be in the same room with Robert, right? I understand. You know, that's why you're coming. That's why you're coming on now. Because like if it was during the regular times, like I don't want to be stuck in a room with Robert.
Oh, you caught me, man.
Well, what can I say? But hey, at least it took it. He did it now, so it's at least something.
Yeah,
it's the compromise, right? It's a compromise. I'll only come on if I don't have to be in the same room with Robert. That was the caveat.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I kind of wanted to talk about with you on the podcast. I mean, conversations that you and I have had before. But I think it's kind of important to kind of put it out there. And well, one, obviously, like first of all, you and I, we have a lot of interests. Obviously, sports are one of them. And we were talking a little bit before we got started. What do you think of the whole Houston Astros debacle in baseball going on?
Well, I have to say, I have to start off by saying I'm probably a little biased, at least, because I'm a diehard Dodger fan. So I do believe that at least Clayton Kershaw's end, we got gypped. We got robbed, but no, I think it's pretty shocking, especially the way they handled it. Not just from the commissioner's end, but the way the Houston Astros team. I mean, you got denials all over the place, and you got even the players who got implicated. They don't even show much remorse. So I think that's very, very surprising for me, shocking, but. Yeah, it's I don't think it's good for the game at all, and I do hope that I would have hoped that they would have done a better job, kind of reprimanding them, but it is what it is, I guess. So.
Well, I mean, hell, Justin Verlander was cracking jokes about it, like it was.
Yeah.
I honestly lost all respect for JV, and I liked him as a player.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, like it's one of those things where like, oh well, we should get we should get that championship. The commissioner should give it to us. Like, no, it's hollow. Like, I don't want that championship.
I don't want that either. No.
Yeah. Honestly, like my dream, my hope is that we face off against them in the World Series, and we just demolish them.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to humiliate them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for me. One of the things I was looking kind of forward to this season was, now that this is all out of the bag, maybe the numbers will show, right? They're not as good as they used to be, especially at home. And I was kind of, and I don't want to wish ill upon any team, but, I was just kind of hoping that they'll just kind of take down, because, well, they don't have the trash can banging anymore, so they don't know what pitches are coming. So maybe they aren't that good, but.
If the scenario ever gets to where they do meet again in the World Series, I hope, as kind of like as a middle finger to the Astros, I hope like at least at Dodger Stadium that the Dodgers will like give out what is it, like the souvenir like trash can lids.
Oh, that would be. Oh man.
So that so they could clang them together, so like they could drown out like the actual.
Oh, and the Dodgers fans will do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, of course they will. Yeah, just to add a little, just like just to kick them a little bit more when they're down.
Oh yeah.
I think that'd be completely appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said that press conference that they held. Where Jim Crane's like, oh, we didn't cheat, we broke the rules, but we didn't really cheat.
Yeah.
Give me a freaking break, but
yeah.
I like I said, I gave like a double bird to my radio as I'm like driving on my way home.
Yeah, you know,
was
I hope,
so-
you know, I hope, I get, you know, in the future, I mean, there'll never be a scenario like this, but, you know, in the future, I hope I can use that defense, you know, if I ever cheat on a girlfriend or something. Oh, no, baby, I didn't cheat on you. I just had sex with another woman.
Yeah,
Totally didn't cheat.
You know,
Oh, that's good.
I'm pretty sure your wife would like that excuse, Paul.
Oh, yeah. She'll believe you. That'll exonerate
Like,
you,
baby,
right?
baby,
Yeah.
baby, I didn't cheat, all right? I just had sex with another woman, all right? Completely
Yeah.
different things.
It's
Different
biological.
things.
Completely biological. We'll have
Completely,
biological
yeah.
needs, right? It's just
Yeah, it's just you weren't there at the time, so you know, hey, you know,
You weren't there, all right? You weren't there. You didn't know what was in my heart.
that was good.
Oh man. But yeah.
Let me just really quick, just to back it up just a little bit. Paul, can we get like a little bit of background on you, just so for the audience, you know, who aren't familiar with you.
Okay. Well, I am, as they like to say, a 1.5 generation Korean American. I came here when I was 9. And because my parents never got to speak English, I'm bilingual by default, I guess. But yeah, I teach at a public high school on Riverside. I teach math. And I am currently sort of taking a break, but I am also in ministry. So I just got done serving 5 years at a local church in a high school ministry. Right now, I'm just about ready to finish my thesis. So made a couple different things kind of lined up where it was time for me to sort of take a break. So I just took the time to write my thesis. This pandemic sort of helped in that regard, I guess, to find any silver lining with it. Yeah, I love sports, like Robert said. I may not watch all of them, but I do follow. Even NASCAR, I do follow. Yeah, I have a wonderful wife and a just the cutest 2-year-old right now. And he's been a ball of joy, and he's having a blast right now, spending time with his mommy and daddy all day. So, but yeah, that's who I am.
That's cool. That's cool. What you said that you were taking a break from teaching as like the whole like Corona thing happened, or
well, it's teaching. My work, I guess, in that regard was I was obviously forced to take a break, and for the good
okay,
reason.
but so you're still teaching at the time, and then the shutdown. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, just needed a little clarification.
From ministry.
Ministry,
as far as,
yeah.
youth teaching.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Not necessarily of his own terms, but you know, he.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Are you doing like the tele schooling or whatever for your students?
So originally it wasn't the lockdown was supposed to happen only until now, I guess.
Right.
So there wasn't any plans for that. But with this lockdown extending more and more, our district is now finally implementing. They call it the distance learning, where the kids can use online internet to acquire learning. But that's been interesting because it's sort of been slow to roll out due to equity issues. Because my district is not the most affluent, so we have kids that don't even have internet actually, let alone a device. So the whole equity part is still a very sensitive thing, especially in a district like mine. So they are doing everything they can to kind of distribute the devices, make sure they all have internet. It's wild. It's something it's definitely territories we've never crossed before. So, but yeah, we're starting up the whole online teaching / learning next week.
That's cool.
You teach math, right?
Yes, I do.
He's one of those Koreans.
I know. I unfortunately did not get the math gene. I got the I got the slacker artist gene.
Oh. Well, you're doing this. This is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm not. I was gifted with different. Yeah, I was gifted with different abilities,
Right.
or talents, as it were.
Yeah.
So yeah, no better, no worse, just different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get into a little bit of how, because obviously you and I both enjoy. I'm also taking a little bit of a break from youth teaching myself, and we both have kind of a heart towards youth ministry.
Mhm.
Hey, how did that how did that start for you? And yeah, like how did that start for you? Like, where do you feel like you got that calling, or when you got?
Yeah. So I would say, a lot of, if you talk to any of the ministers or pastors, they may give you a single moment of revelation or an enlightenment moment where it's like, oh, this is what I'm called to do. For me, I always tell anybody, whenever anybody asks, I never had that single moment really. Um,
Me either.
it's more of a gradual thing, and it seems to be sort of the MO of my life, my spiritual life at least. But I would say that it kind of birthed out of my immigration part of my life, where when I got to the States, obviously I didn't speak English. I was 9 years old, elementary school, and it wasn't easy. I got bullied a few times here and there. Kids being kids. And when I reached middle school, towards the end of my middle school, you sort of hit that teenage years where uh, you know, a lot of things bother you for no reason. And, my parents who were struggling to make the ends meet, working 12 hours a day in their own business, it was really tough to find someone to talk to, someone to really build relationships with. I mean, I had friends in school, but there was still an element missing. And, I grew up Buddhist in Korea. And when I got to the States, it's not like my family was faithfully or devoutly practicing Buddhist either. But, it was just one of those things like, oh, we're Buddhists. We go to the temple, here and there.
Right.
And, but one of my brother's friends' mom, she kind of noticed us and she said, hey, why don't you check out, our church? They have a lot of good, mentors there. They have a lot of quality friends there. So she actually sort of started to, pick us up from our house, take us to church, and I just kind of fell in love uh, with. And it's funny because the way I fell in love with God was through the people that were there. My Sunday school teachers, who were in college at the time, were just awesome. They kind of took me under their wings. They showed love. Just the fact that they took us out each week to get, a drink or a meal. It was just a great experience for me personally, and that kind of drew me into the whole community, and it really helped me get through those, very sensitive, critical teenage years. And
Yeah.
just looking back, for me, it was kind of a way for me to give back. Um, I guess give back to God, but also I know that a lot of immigrant families have teenagers that are sort of in the similar boats as I was. So I kind of want to show that love and show that I guess guidance and to be the mentor and be their support as best as I could. So yeah, I just found exceeding passions for that, and that's also what fueled me to become a high school teacher because even outside of the church setting, teenagers, there are a lot of things that the world sort of miss about teenagers, right? And we all felt that as teenagers, like
Yeah.
no
Oh,
one
yeah.
understands us. We're all alone in our own island, and just kind of be their support, be that voice to guide them. I find a lot of joy in that. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of like similar to me, where it's like, yeah, there's not like a single moment, but like, I didn't grow up in church either. I didn't start going to church until I was in high school, and I was like, kind of, right around that. And I've shared this several times, but like, it's for me, it was just I knew that there was something more to life than just what we're seeing, and uh, it's like I heard about all these other religions, and I thought people were like, no, that doesn't sound right. And it wasn't until I heard the gospel where I was like, that's the one that makes sense to me. And the more that obviously I started going to church. I went to a Korean church, like why 90% of my friends are Korean. And, but no, the more obviously, the people were great. Like I met a lot of great friends through church. But like it was for me, it was the getting to read the Bible and and then it's like, wow, okay, that's pretty interesting. And then the more once I went to Bible college, it was like, wow, like okay, now we're getting some serious stuff, and you start digging, start doing more research, and it's not just blind faith or just a bunch of words. Like this stuff really happens. These people really exist.
Right.
It's not just gobbledygook. Although people might think of it as that, but there's a lot more depth than people realize. That's what really me. And to be honest, like youth ministry, I feel like the young minds can be shaped better, and I want kids to have that mind where it's like where they start thinking for themselves.
Right.
Not to be like disobedient, kind of go crazy, but like don't just accept things. Like if you come to the same conclusion that like, oh, your parents saying this or your pastor saying that about like things, then that's great. But like, don't just blindly follow things.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're kind of in a similar vein that way as well.
Yeah.
We tend to get us a little bit in trouble.
Oh yeah. Especially in the Korean American church, yeah. Yeah. Because that's sort of the Asian way, right? Where it's like you just kind of suck it up and do as you're told. There's an element to that in every culture, but it's put me in some hot waters in the past where, because for me, it's probably also has to do with the fact that I was not churched, quote unquote, right? I didn't grow up, listening to all the Sunday school stories in elementary schools, or, following my parents around different services for different occasions. Again, I didn't grow up at all in that sort of culture. So maybe it's also that I am biased where I don't find value in that, but at the same time, I feel like, because there's a study out there that says a lot of Korean American teenagers leave church after they leave high school. And for me, my conviction is that it's because it's not their faith, it's their parents. And they are pushed and almost forced to come out to church every Sunday. They never ask for themselves why they need to come out to church, or why this is important, why this is an important value to have. And I try to emphasize that as much as I could. So when the church wants me to, come up with some kind of gimmicks, or, almost force them to participate in different things, one, if you understand anything about teenagers, you can't force them to do anything. Elementary, middle school, you can kind of scare them, but high school, no, doesn't work. So, it's for me, it's all about your personal kind of reckoning. That why, for you to realize why you need Jesus, why it's important, and why the gospel is true. So, yeah.
Yeah, because that's that, and I think another part of the problem also is like you grow up in like a certain denomination, right? Like, oh, I went to a Methodist church, or I'm a Lutheran, or I'm this or I'm that. And for me, like I've kind of been around the block on a lot of that stuff. I was at a Methodist church. Now I'm at a Presbyterian church.
Right.
The Bible colleges I went to, one was Southern Baptist. I ended up I finished with one that was Foursquare, which is more like the Pentecostal.
Right.
I just went, you went all around. You just went to like every.
Every
I've been all over the place. So
you hit every part of the buffet, essentially.
And for me, like the important part is that there's one non-negotiable, like that makes us believers, and that's belief in the gospel. That's it. So it doesn't matter, like okay, we might have some theological differences in some places, but that's the one thing that matters the most. If you don't believe this, that's what separates us. If you don't believe it, you're not a believer. If you do believe it, you are. And the rest of it is stuff that I think is, it's not just, oh, forget all that other stuff. That's not important. No, it's important, but like, and you should know where you line up, like what you believe in. That you obviously take the study of the Bible. That takes a little bit of wrestling, and you might not necessarily line up with the particular church you're at, but that doesn't mean like that you are wanting to like separate yourself from the church community, or like, oh, I got to leave this church, it's evil. It's like, no, 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 no. That's not, that was never what I was trying to instill in people. But I think the way that some of the people at church assume that that's what I was trying to do. It's like, no, I'm trying to, my job as a God has given me the task of instilling wisdom upon these kids so that they can obviously become stronger believers themselves, and it creates a new cycle where we're creating a new generation of great pastors, teachers, leaders, or whatever industry that they're going to go in, but they're strong believers wherever they go, and they create, and and so on and so forth. They create the next generation of Christians. And the state of the church today is kind of, I'm very frustrated by it. Obviously it's important, you got to go to church, the church community is important, but man, I'm in that like weird zone where, yeah, I'm a Christian, I'm not of the world anymore, but I also came from the world, and I understand that mindset, but I don't really feel like I'm welcome in any any side. I'm hated by everybody, so I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean, because it's not easy, or as easy as it was, to find churches that are very good at towing the middle ground. And I sometimes feel like when Jesus said, narrow is the path, I think this is one of the elements that sort of describes it, where, because right now you often find churches that either hate the world with bitterness, and they just antagonize the world. And then the other side, where they're just in bed with the world, where they do everything the world tells you to do. But it's really hard to find that balance, I think. And I would always, kind of remind that to my students at church. Christianity is all about life of balance. And you look at, if you really study Jesus' life carefully, that's what he did, right? He taught things that may not have been common at the time, or he may have had radical beliefs and teachings, but at the same time, he wasn't a rebel. He didn't rebel rouse or gather a crowd to revolt against the Romans, or he himself said, "Render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar." And he specifically told, and not just himself, but his followers afterwards, the Apostle Paul said in Romans and in Corinthians, you got to obey your authorities. So there's definitely an element of balance that's important to the Christian, and I think that gets sort of swept under the rug right now, because everything's just so polarized. But with the political scenes, with all kinds of areas, every aspect of our life, it's just so polarized, I feel like, right now. And it just, I kind of get sick of it sometimes, and it's sad that it kind of creeps into the church as well. And
that was going to bring up that point too, because it really chapped my hide that I feel like too much of the world is kind of injecting itself in the church, and a lot of it, because there is not a strong understanding of the word. There's like, or it's not even like there's a strong understanding, because I mean, you got to start somewhere, but there's no curiosity. Like people just accept, like, oh, this is our pastor's pretty good, and like, what he's saying, I'm kind of seeing that in the Bible, but that's the only Bible that they get, and there's no curiosity. It's like, oh, okay, well, I did my part as a Christian. It's like, that's like, not even, to me, that's not even the bare minimum. It's like,
right.
And because of that, like, yeah, it allows the world to just kind of, you know, destroy our churches. And I'm not saying, and I'm not picking on a particular church or, you know, like, that there aren't good churches out there, because there are, but like as a whole church community, especially here in the West, it just, man, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it is. It's very frustrating. But I always tell my wife, it's funny because as frustrated as I am, it just seems like I'm always drawn to, you know, those churches to serve. And, you know, it's almost psychotic, but at the same time, you know, at least I can sort of try to be a voice of reason, you know, in a place like that. And I think that's also a problem too, where a lot of sort of second gen Koreans are leaving the Korean church and kind of set up their own group, you know, and it's kind of like, oh, us versus them. And I don't think that's very right either. I think we got to continue to try to sort of, you know, coexist and create that synergy that's required for a church to function. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like I've put my finger on what my next ministry will be. You know, that's up to the Lord. But yeah, I'm ready for whatever it is, even if it's the most frustrating church, right? But yeah, I'm up for the task.
Well, it's not supposed to be an easy journey. It definitely isn't.
Yeah.
But Andy, do you ever like kind of? I'm not sure if like you ever feel this like about like your church, or like you've had troubles at church at all. Like, as far, obviously, I know you're not like a Bible teacher or anything, but you know, you seem to have a pretty good head on your shoulders, pretty wise when it comes to biblical matters.
Yeah, no, I used to be a Sunday school teacher. You know, I used to work with youth kids. And yeah, it's at the time it was really difficult because you know, it was difficult because, you know, you know, when I got these kids, you know, they seem very world weary, you know, even though they're young, like, you know, like in their, like they're, you know, in betweens, or they're, you know, they're teenagers, or they're, you know, like little bit, you know, like kind of like seniors in high school. They seem like so weary of the world. So it's kind of hard to break through that cynicism, and, you know, trying to teach them, you know, trying to impress upon them about, you know, eternity, you know, because when you're young, you think you're gonna go on forever, but you know, as you get, you know, but as you get older, it's just like, you know, you finally understand the wisdom that's in the Bible starts to become more and more. It starts to become more and more clear. It's like, you know, there's nothing new under the sun. It's like, you know, and we see that year after year as they keep making remakes of movies, or, you know, you know, and like you see kind of like history is repeating itself. You know, in certain events that are happening around the world, and you know, it's really hard to impart that kind of wisdom onto, you know, onto a child, essentially, that is already become cynical of the world, or, you know, even to hope. You know, it's and I think you know, it's, you know, and I think we're at a weird turning point in this world where, you know, it's like we've been fed, you know, even us, we, you know, our entire academic life, you know, we've been kind of fed this like secularism, and, like, you know, like and, you know, this humanism, but you know, there's no hope in humanism, because eventually all humans die. You know, there's nothing after that. And I think nowadays people are, you know, they're looking for something more. You know, they're looking for more meaning than just to be on this planet, and to exist. And I completely lost the point of where I was going with this, but
But
Oh, but yeah, well, yeah, and again, to the church, to just kind of bring it back to the church. There's, I mean, just recently I've been having struggles with kind of my church, particularly with having to do with the coronavirus and all that stuff, and um, just and it's the simplest thing is just like because my church decided that we weren't going to have in-person services anymore, or at least for the time being, and that really bothered me. Uh, I just because I don't know, like I don't because we're like how you guys were saying how we're supposed to be of the world but not in it, and we're supposed we're called to be set apart, but how are we setting ourselves apart if we're acting like everybody else?
Yeah. It's definitely it's one of those things like if where you want to be kind of like socially responsible, like it's to take things like this seriously, but at the same time, in some cases it was churches that were, what, let's be responsible. We're not going to stop meeting necessarily, because people are still meeting even though it's not face to face. Thankfully, through like obviously, 50 years ago, this would be a disaster for the church. Obviously now we do have the technology. There is that. Um, but in some churches we're like, we're gonna volunteer, like to kind of, to do our part, to help everyone out to alleviate like maybe some of the fears people had as well. Um, but in some cases where you have like the government saying, where if you meet, we're gonna shut you down permanently. And these are coming out of the words from the New York mayor, where he's saying like, oh, if anyone is seen going into a church or synagogue and still meeting, I'm gonna shut you down permanently. That's kind of like, woo. Now we're getting into some kind of like sketchy territory where obviously is being in the United States, that's the First Amendment. Like no,
Mhm.
but at the same time, like it's maybe it's one of those things where this is gonna cause friction where like it's gonna really weed out the people who are real believers and those who are just kind of there, or maybe like kind of the wolves that circumvent through our churches. Who knows? Um, so it's like this is a weird time.
It's very weird.
Mhm.
Very weird. And for me, the way I kind of justify this is, well, couple different ways, but I think the fear of the spread of the disease is pretty legitimate scientifically and
Yeah.
just statistically, for churches to gather. I mean, for me, if the schools are out, public schools, publicly funded public schools are out, I think it's pretty legitimate that any kind of large gathering or even a small decent number of gathering could significantly make things a lot worse. So I think I kind of find justification there. It's legitimate in terms of the spreading of diseases, and in relation to that, Jesus said, "Love your God." And how do we love God? The best way to love God is to love our neighbors as ourselves. So if us not meeting in person could sort of keep other people from getting sick, believers or non-believers alike, I think that's a good enough of sort of justification. I think God will be okay with that for us to uphold that and to honor that. And yeah, like you said, if they're shutting us down for any other reason, like we just don't like churches, or Christians are too hostile, so they shouldn't meet, or any kind of dumb or unfounded reasons like that, then yeah, that's a serious thing that we should stand up and sort of voice our reasoning. But I think with this, that's a good justification. We want to love everybody, so let's try our best to not to get them sick with this deadly disease. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's very. I keep using the word unprecedented because it really is. And I was telling my
None
wife
of
the
us
other
are
day.
talking anything like this.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, like even 5, 10 years ago, I'll be thinking like, this church is using social media too much, or look at them branding themselves using Instagram or Facebook,
Right.
oh, this church is doing what? Live streaming? So we're making Christians lazy now, where they get to just tune in from their homes. Yeah, I used to think that, uploading sermons on YouTube, it was just kind of uncharted territory at the time, and the conservative side of me, nature of me, was kind of scared to, kind of get myself there. But hindsight is 2020. You look at it now, it's like the churches that were already had all this set up. It's a lot easier for them to implement any kind of remote services. And once it's just like, maybe this was God's way of saying, hey, technology like podcasts, live streaming, video technology and the internet could be used to honor, God. And obviously it could be used to, demote God, obviously, but it could,
Well, yeah.
just like everything
Right,
else.
right.
It
Because
could be
everything
used to
else
honor
is
God.
it's a tool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus as a carpenter, I think he would understand the idea of a tool, because he was a carpenter, so he used tools
Right.
to carve wood and to build furniture and things like. So he understands like a hammer that you could use to build a house can also kill somebody, but it's all in how like the wielder and how you wield it.
Right.
And so I think I do understand that. The technology, the tools that we it's all about how you use it. Like how you were saying, Paul, that it's it could either be used to edify God or to be used to demean.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah, but I think
Yeah.
we should still be wary that the through the like the mask of social responsibility, it could be used to rob people's rights.
Mhm.
Because what is it? I'm gonna go with this. That they say like, oh yeah, please be just responsible and think of other people. It's like okay, and then more and more, it's like they ask us not to meet. So okay, we won't. It's like okay, so was it? Oh, we can meet, but just they asked us not to meet, so we not meet in groups larger than like 10 people. But then they said, oh, don't meet with anyone with groups larger than 10 people, and then oh, just don't meet at all. And so
Right.
slowly we're like we're our the fundamental rights are eroded, and
Mm.
we're no longer offering God what is God's God, and we're just we're all to Caesar. So that's the worry that I have.
Right.
And what was it? We had a friend of ours on the other day, and I think there is maybe some positives too that might be that come from this is that where families actually come together and hopefully like it's a time to to come together to worship together, to be together, and kind of read the Bible together and learn and gain that curiosity and kind of there's so many Christians like that I was saying earlier is there's no curiosity almost, and this might be a way where it's like, well, we don't have anything else to do. Why don't we read our Bible? It's like maybe
Right.
that's a little bit naive of me, but at least as far as believers go, it's a I would hope that maybe that would be something that they would do. I don't expect to to be like you and me, Paul, where like we're crazy people. We read theology for fun, for God's sake, and
Right.
like, oh wow, that Greek word meant that. Like, okay, that's interesting. Like, yeah, I don't expect that level of Bible study, but like
Mhm.
just to be in it. That's what it's meant to to put God's word on one part. That's what
Yeah.
we're to do, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe through this time, we do have the ability to see one another, so that we're not cast off into exile,
Mhm.
like it would have been even 20 years ago, really. Um, and yeah, it's gonna allow us to can still kind of meet, and it'll also give us a chance to read our Bibles and to kind of maybe come back to God in a little bit.
Yeah, and just spending quality time. You know, it's one of the big issues I remember reading from psychologists is that, you know, families are not having even meals together anymore because everybody's so busy, or you know, but now they're forced to share a meal together, and you know, just spending
Yeah.
quality time. I think it's very useful. So
Right.
that's some positives there. But to kind of piggybacking with Andrew, what he was, you know, one of his worries with this is, you know, what got me thinking is, you know, going to church isn't easy, right? And I would always tell my students too, it's like, I understand when you don't want to come to church, because trust me, I'm your pastor. Some Sundays I get up, but you know, get up and I go, I don't want to go. Can we get someone else to preach? Can I call in a sub today? You know, like,
Right, I know. Actually, really quick
and so-
anecdote. I remember as a young, before I was, before I really became a Christian, I remember I had missed a week of church, and like an elder or someone, or like a junior pastor, asked me why I didn't come, and I was just like, I didn't really want to give the, the truthful answer, and so I was just like, oh, I just wasn't here. I just wasn't here. But he just kind of kept pressing me, and then finally, out of frustration, I was like, because I didn't want to come, okay? And
Yeah,
and then
I
like
feel-
it was funny because all the kids like in my Sunday school class, like their mouth was agape, like, oh my god, I can't believe he just said that. It was just like it was true. I just didn't want to come,
Yeah, and I feel like this whole remote sort of meeting, because it's easier to just tune in, you know, get up out
Yeah,
of
no,
your bed,
absolutely, yeah.
1 minute before the service starts, sip on your coffee in your pajamas, just turn on the thing, and you know, it's easy. And I feel like that's going to be a challenge when this is all over. It's getting the people to come back out, because once they get a taste of it, they're like, hey, we can just continue to worship this way instead of getting ourselves to go out there and meet people, because that's important. We need to be out there physically to meet people, and I think that's going to be a challenge, definitely, after all this.
I kind of wonder though too, and like I said, this could go in all these type of directions, and I think because people, I mean, what, it's been a month, and people are going nuts. You know, I mean, they're climbing up the walls essentially at this point.
Yeah.
I actually don't think that the idea of people like not wanting to go to church, like, oh my god, I get to go somewhere. All right, let's do this. You know, there might be that possibility as well.
Right, even if it's to church, they're like, oh, finally I get to get out and get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here, just meet people. Yeah.
Hey, it's somewhere. It's not my house. Thank God.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, no, I think that's a potential problem too. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that like I said, I think we're gonna see who the real believers are, who the kind of wishy-washy believers are, and I think maybe we're gonna kind of shake loose some of the dust,
Right.
and maybe get our churches back in order. Getting strong teaching, strong community, all that stuff. Because I'll be honest, I've been really frustrated with church for quite a while now. I mean, obviously, I'm a believer. I love God. I love the Bible, and honestly, I love God's people, although they frustrate the crap out of me, especially when it comes to like all the teaching and stuff, because people assume that like my motive, I have like ill motives, that I'm it's like, no, I just trying to teach the truth. That's all I can. I can't say something that I think is false.
Right.
Now I might have a different theological viewpoint, but I'm going to give you the reason why I have that different viewpoint, and I'll present the other viewpoints. I have no problem with that. Like, here's the other viewpoints. Here's why people think that way. I tend to be this way.
Right.
But but I have to tell the truth. I can't. I'm not going to lie about like, oh, I have this belief, but I don't. um, but like you said, the curiosity, factor in our churches, mainly in our church leadership too. In some cases, people get stuck in their ways and like, oh, you went against the denominational teaching. Like that's, you can't do that. It's like, well,
It's a
I
no-no.
just did. So yeah, no, this is a weird time. Me, I'm studying the Bible. I know I've actually been working on a study of Revelations the last like couple of months.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just because
You wild man.
I've read it several times, but I haven't actually done like a deep study of it, and so it's been kind of interesting.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
It's a hard book.
it is, like I
It's a
said,
hard
you
book.
gotta work through all the symbolism.
It's
and
really
what it all
scary,
meant.
but
Yeah.
it's a really interesting book.
See, I don't in my study, I'm not seeing it necessarily as I see why people are like, ooh, it's scary. Like I don't, and a lot of Christians like, oh, I'm not, or I don't know of a lot of pastors like in churches that will take from it, like that'll teach from it. But what I see out of it is, no matter where you fall in your eschatology, that's a $25 word for end times studies, uh, or apocalypse studies. Um, but no matter what happens, as believers, God's gonna gonna take care of us, one way or the other, like, and we'll be fine. But what I take from it is like, what's the whole point of the book? And the point to me is like it just gives us extra incentive, I think, to share the gospel with those that we are around while we're alive. And not trying to like beat them over the head with the Bible or stand and shout on a street corner like some crazy people do. Or write a manifesto in our Unabomber style shacks, but like just share why you believe in Christ. And there's a lot of natural occurrences that happens, and you do it by creating, by being different, by not being the world. And it's like, why are you doing that? Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. There we go. And God creates those opportunities to share the gospel. And
Right.
reading Revelations, for me, it just gives me extra incentive to create more of those opportunities.
Mm. Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad that we talked a little bit about this, Paul, because I know like you kind of mentioned some stuff going on with like kind of the with church, and I know you and I kind of had the same reason why we're kind of like kind of in exile when it comes to church. At least when it comes to teaching in church.
Right.
So I'm kind of glad that you were able to we were able to talk about that a little bit today, and I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. So, and because you're always busy. Obviously, you got your wife, your son, who's definitely loving all this family time at home.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm really happy you came on today, man. It was good to see you.
It's again my first podcast ever, so it's a truly an honor. I was kind of nervous, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys are pretty awesome. So
You did
it's
great.
great.
You did great. You did great.
Well, if you ever get you get a little stir crazy and want to like talk more Bible or whatever, like, you're always welcome to come on. We'll talk about it.
All right, I'll let you know, man.
We've had an interesting mixture of people that we've had on. I've had missionary friends of mine. Had other people that are just kind of similar minds as you and me, where we're Bible crazy, and so we kind of nerd out when it comes to the Bible. Andy knows, like our one of our last podcasts, he was like, "Wow, I'm I'm not fit for this discussion."
All right.
Was that
that was with Matt.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you had this look of bewilderment on your face, Andy, on during that podcast.
Yeah, no, I just what was it? Yeah, I just didn't feel like I was on the same level. But I'll get there. I'll get there.
No, man, you're just as wise as us. We're like I said, I'm just a crazy person. That's
You're pretty crazy, Robert. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I mean,
Yeah, no, just through this podcast, I've learned so much about Robert and just like his just kind of Robert's backstory and just like kind of like his weird kind of his unusual tendencies.
Oh, yeah.
Just like Robert says, he reads theology for fun. It's just like and I rib him for it. I bust I call him a nerd, and, or he might be an uber nerd.
yeah.
Like I mean, like to under like to for so him like for him to like fully grasp like the Bible, he like went to seminary or like he went to Bible college, just so he could just understand it, not necessarily to become a pastor, but just so he can really understand it. So it's like, that's on a different level.
Right.
Oh, and then when I studied the original languages like Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, that took me on a whole like another level. I was like, wow, like I haven't even scratched the surface.
The whole world you've never known before.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And people always like, I remember I was at work, because people were kind of curious about me. Like, I don't know how it came up. I was like about like languages. Oh yeah, I studied Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic. And like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, should you be like a professor somewhere?
Is that your nickname at work, Robert? Do they call you professor?
That'd be awesome if that was my name. Maybe I can make some videos and stuff.
Yeah, you can make radios out of coconuts. That's
Yeah.
For those of you not old enough, that's a Gilligan's Island reference. It's an old TV show.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's so like I'm if you ever want to nerd out on Bible, you can come on anytime, Paul.
All right. Thanks for the offer, man. I'll let you know.
If you have any sports rants that you want to go on?
Ooh, that's a good one too. That's
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll give Lizzie a break,
Yeah. She's like, I don't care, Paul. I know.
Well, like that's. I mean, yeah, that's. I guess that'd be where me and your wife would relate, because when Robert goes on like these sports rants, I'm just like, I don't care. I mean, not to say that I don't enjoy watching sports, and I'm not saying that I can't like get into it, but it's like most of the time it's like I don't care.
Yeah, we'll be driving and then listening to the Dodger game, and there's like a stupid move that's made or something like that, and I'm like yelling at the radio, and Lizzie's literally just fall. You realize they can't hear you.
Yes, they can. Don't listen to them, Paul. Yes, they can. You will listen to us eventually.
Oh man, those are good times.
Trust me, I on the edge of my seat. I foam at the mouth, like all of it. So yeah. And he's seen my
I've seen it. So. I know. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I was like, it's just a game, and then Robert, just gives me like the really, cold looks, like I'm gonna kill you.
It's not that I'm gonna kill you. It's like you don't get it. This is a series.
This is life and death.
This is super serial, guys. This is super serial.
Oh man. Well, anyways, there. I don't know if you're not necessarily a social media guru or anything. Is there any way, like, if people want to reach out to you to reach you, or?
No, that's one of the things that I really lack. No, I don't have a website or anything like that. Nerdy website, none of that.
Yeah.
But I guess they can contact you.
Yeah.
You can relate a message. I don't know.
You're not really missing a ton on social media. Trust me. Like we've had these Twitter talks on our live stream on Tuesdays. Oh my God, there's a lot of garbage.
Yeah, Twitter is pretty much a cesspool.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of go and look. I mean, for me, I just kind of go to like the edge of the cesspool and I just kind of look at it and it's like, and I just turn right back around. It's like, nope.
I remember like there was a whole thing where I forgot what how it came about. Like there was the whole documentary on Michael Jackson, and like people were like, oh, how dare they talk so bad about the King of Pop? It's like, yeah, but he raped kids. Like, and like I never get into this. Like I got so much like hate for it's like yeah, well he didn't get convicted. It's like that doesn't mean he didn't do it. Like he has
yeah, like the same way like OJ didn't do it. You know, like OJ wasn't convicted, but you know we're pretty damn sure he did it.
And then Andy like just as a joke was kind of like ribbing.
Oh yes.
I got into this rage. It's like I started yelling at him.
Yeah, because I started, like I jokingly defended him. Or defended Michael Jackson, and then Robert just like unleashed on me, even though I was just kind of joking. But then like because I got a rise out of him, I continued. And I was like, oh, well, what about this and this and that? And that would like it like put him into it was like I put him into overdrive, and then he like really started. It's like no, it's like this is this is BS. Of course he diddled the kids.
And he's like, I'm just kidding, Robert.
And at the end, I was like, yeah, when like he finally stopped, and he's like panting because he was like so worked up. I was like, dude, I was just joking.
I was like, you got me, Andy. You got me. This is what I've been dealing with on Twitter for like the last like couple days.
Oh man.
Dude,
but I think that was revenge for this one time that Robert got me like spun up about what was it? Was it Last Jedi?
Oh, Star Wars.
That? Oh, and 13 Reasons Why.
Oh yeah, 13 Reasons Why. Oh god, I hate that show. Yeah, just like
to start the 13 Reasons Why podcast, Andy was not interested at all.
No, yeah, because like we watched the first season, and we like as a podcast we watched the first season and we discussed it. It's like okay, cool. We'll never. It was a horrible show in my no, not even in my opinion. It's objectively a bad show, and so. So I was like, okay, we did the first season, we'll never have to do it again. But then Robert and one of our other friends who does the podcast with us, James, that's why I don't believe in democracy. But they decided that they were gonna vote. It's like, okay, we're gonna do season 2, and then because they want to do it, and and I'm the only lone voice saying that I don't want to do it. I got I was outvoted, and so we had to do season 2. And it's like it was just as bad as the first season. I was like. And then, during the filming of that podcast, there was like, oh, like we'll definitely have to do the third one, and I put my foot down, like, no, we're not becoming the 13 Reasons Why podcast.
He was like, I will end this podcast.
I know, yeah. So I will burn this podcast to the ground.
So like I said, you're not missing anything on Twitter or any of that stuff.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Well, anyways, for that's the episode. Thank you, Paul, for coming on.
Thanks for your time, guys.
For those of you that are social media savvy and you want to check us out, our main podcast, Circle of Jerks podcast, we got a whole slew of episodes. We have a few of the remote episodes out now because we can't actually see each other and touch each other because we might all die. And then so we've been doing the remote podcast on Tuesdays. Andy and I do a live stream called Nocturnal Transmissions about 8 o'clock-ish Pacific Standard Time. So if you like movies, if you like just random thoughts, Andy and I giving our manifestos, about random stuff.
If you don't get enough, of our opinions on this podcast, then come join. Put us on Tuesday on the live stream. But we do it live, and we just, give our, we can just constantly give our opinions.
Yeah. So if you're interested in that, come join us. We'll interact with you. If you like classic gaming, Up by Up Down, that's with yours truly. And once this stupid pandemic ends, I got more content coming out for that. If you want to hit us up on social media, interact with us there. Twitter at PodcastCOJ, Instagram Circle of Jerks Podcast. And if you want to kind of get a little snippet of our movie reviews, go to Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ and interact with us there. And that's the episode. That's where you can reach us. That's the episode. And I hope everyone stays safe. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Deuces.
All right. Thank you, guys.